Hey, what's up, guys? And let me just get over here to YouTube real quick and make sure this is working. The OBS just did a update the other day, so it looks new to me. So let me just double check to make sure we're live before we get started. Oh, there's an ad, so that must mean something's going on. But yeah, let me click past this. Yep, it's live. Good. All right, so welcome to the Wednesday night live stream Q&A. This is where we just kind of chill out, answer some questions you guys have. I'm actually going to go through some of the comments from my previous videos today just to kind of see. One of them popped up, and I thought it was pretty funny. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section or the live chat, better yet, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. But outside that, not really sure how long the stream's going to go for. I got this allergy thing going on here. You can probably hear it's kind of raspy, but gonna try to tough it out for a little bit. So, but yeah, so the comment that popped up, so every once in a while I try to get in there and answer some questions for you guys that you leave on the videos. And unfortunately, any video before like a year and a year and a half ago, I don't get any of those comments anymore unless I go through and I weed through the videos. I don't really get them anymore for whatever reason, whatever YouTube did. But yeah, so one popped up today. It's about the update that I did yesterday. It says, it's just funny. I love how you described one of your fish getting blended alive because you added a murder machine to the tank as very unfortunate. I just thought it was funny. I kind of laughed out loud for them. I'm gonna give that a like. Thanks. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it. Bill, what's up? Evening, Travis from Reefer near Carlisle. Hey, what's up, man? Yeah, you're about 20 minutes from me. 15 if you're speeding. Yeah, I think we just opened up a new gym out in Carlisle. I have yet to be there, and I used to live in Carlisle like 10 years ago for a little bit. Let's see here. Let me get over and grab my website chat. But yeah, how's everybody doing? I know that we got nailed with some snow here in Pennsylvania. I know up in Vermont they got a ton of stuff going on there. My brother said they got like 10 inches or so the other day, almost where you couldn't even drive. It was so bad. But let me pull it up here. Okay, so if I click on, bear with me while I pull up the live stream. It's not updating on my end. All right, cool. So one of the questions that you guys were asking, hey, what's up, man? Lewis. So you guys were asking about the Night Crew Hyper Reef Gen 2s. I got a bunch of stuff on that today. Now, that's why I did the update video. That's why I did that today, just to try to get some of that information out there, because a lot of you guys are still on the fence between buying the Gen 2s or even though they're obviously you can still get the Gen 1s used for really cheap. I think you can get them for under $100 each, depending on where you're at. But so you guys were asking a lot of questions. Are the Gen 2s worth it? And somebody even mentioned that they are almost exactly like the Radions. And I don't agree with that. I do think that they look like the Radions, but they don't have the technology. And the way that if you look at the lenses, they're just not like Radions. They're not. I mean, they're round, but they're not. They don't have the curvature that the Radions had. So even though the outside looks like a Radion, it's definitely not. It's not a Radion, and obviously the price point is not even close. But like I mentioned in the video, it's definitely worth the buy. I am gonna get some more of them. I do plan on when I redo the frag system, I do plan on going back to the white tubs. If you guys remember that, the 8 foot by 3 foot by I think it's like 13 inches tall or something like that. I'm definitely going to go with either if I can get Kessels for a really good deal, or I'm going to do the Hyper Reef Gen 2s for sure. The 200s are fine. I think if I did one every couple feet on that tub, probably put 4 of them on that tub, it would be totally fine. They're going to go long ways, right? So I think that'd be perfect. And of course, it's 1/3 the price, right? So why not? Now, long-term wise, I guess we'll see, right? It's only been 4 months, so we'll see how they turn out long-term, if they burn up, if the fans die, if they have power supply issues like the previous generation. I guess we'll find out soon enough. But for those of you who are on the fence, and I just ended with that, if you're on the fence about getting the Gen 2s, just get them. I mean, they're better than the Gen 1s. They're not as much as Radions or Kessels. And if you need lighting and you're just kind of starting up, you'll be good to go. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. And I do apologize again for my allergies. I sound like I'm dying over here. Let's see. Tim says, you recently said you were moving in a year. Are you planning to transfer your tank, starting fresh, taking a break? Okay, so the plan is, so I have a couple issues. So in my current business, I have a couple things that are going on that are preventing me from moving forward. One, space. So yeah, I'm in the basement there. Even though everything's really organized and is doing well, I run technically two businesses under one. So I have the 3D printing business and I have the coral business, right? So for the coral business, my plan is to, one thing I really miss about the hobby is having a display tank in my living room. Now, a lot of you guys already have them in your living room, so you get to enjoy them every day. For me, I have to come downstairs to basically my work environment to enjoy my reef tank. And if I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really enjoy it as much as I probably should. That's why the glass is always dirty. I don't really pay much attention to it because it's just work. I'm just down there working. It's not like I'm, relaxing on the couch, just looking at the fish swimming there. That's why I saw that bang-eye cardinal in the video. I was like, oh crap, I got a bang-eye cardinal. I'm sure if I was looking at the tank more often, I'd probably notice the fish, right? But the issue I'm having is I don't have a main display in my living room. So the plan moving forward, since we're going to be building, at least that's the plan. Like, you never know how things will change here in the future, but the plan is to build the 300 into the wall, having a sink and some, where I do my maintenance and stuff behind in like a little closet. And then I'm going to have everything plumbed down to the basement where I'll have the filtration and everything kind of laid out in the frag tank. So it's all one system. So that's the plan. I want to put the 300 in the wall. And if I can, depending on what custom aquariums got going on, I would like to add a 500-gallon display tank downstairs as well. That way, one of the things I mentioned in my update videos, I need to separate the beginner SPS and more of the advanced Acropora stuff. And I was going to do that with the tanks. I was going to do one tank with all that beginner stuff like the Mach-Ds and the Digis and all that kind of stuff that grows really quickly because they grow so fast compared to a lot of these acros that I want to grow, like the Walt Disneys and stuff. They just, obviously a digitata and a Montipora cap's going to outgrow a Walt Disney all day long. And with that, I want to use the bigger tank for primarily acros and then use the 300 for the kind of like the mixed reef kind of the thing I got going on now. That way I could still provide coral for people who are just starting out. If I just go primarily Acropora like I want to, I kind of cut half of my clientele who buy coral just off because a lot of you guys aren't coming in the hobby and just buying Acropora as your first coral. So it's just not. That's the reason why I grow a lot of basic stuff and a lot of easy stuff because that's who comes to the channel, right? So it's just kind of the way it is. Now, so to pretty much sum up that whole question, moving wise, want a display tank. If for whatever reason I can't get the 300 upstairs, I will put like a 125 or a 220. I'm going to have some kind of saltwater display upstairs, have the frag tanks and another display downstairs, with all the filtration, everything. And then I do want to have 4 or 5 of those tubs because low boys are cool, but I guarantee they won't survive the move. And I just need more room, right, in general, especially for the fish to swim around. And so that's just the one part of the business. And then my main goal is I want to get all the printers out of the house. So I'm going to have a separate building for them. And I want to double my printers. Right now I have 27 downstairs and I have a few upstairs. And I need more printers. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I know there's a lot going on there. But no, I'm definitely not taking a break. I am going to start fresh, as in I'm going to sterilize the entire tank. I am going to run fresh water in it for a while to kind of just make everything basically new, right? Kill anything that might be in there. And then obviously change out all the plumbing, clean everything thoroughly. And then obviously, quarantine per usual. The fish will go in quarantine. The corals will go in quarantine. Everything will kind of just start as if I was, fresh off the streets and I was just starting over from the beginning. So, but yeah. Hopefully that answers the question. Kind of long-winded, but again, hopefully it answers it. Now, where do I purchase the white tubs? I'll have to look through my email. It's a hydroponic tub. I know that. I don't remember the exact place off the top of my head, but I will have to look through the email. You can hit me up via email, and I can try to find you the link if you want. Thoughts on ozone? I've never used ozone before, and I don't really have a lot of thoughts on it, to be honest with you. I know several years back it was kind of like a lot of people talked about it. It was kind of one of those go-to things. I've never personally used it. Yeah, so I can't really guide you in any direction with it. Sorry. Some of my encrusting Monties have bleached due to sudden changes in salinity. It's been a few weeks now, and they still look the same. Very faint trace of color. What can I do to get them back? So, Aussie Dan, have you confirmed that it was the salinity changes? And what do you mean by sudden? Like how soon and by how much? Because usually salinity alone, if it's within a certain range, right, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Say you went from 1.02 3 to like 1.026 over a few days. I mean, yeah, they'll be stressed out, but I won't think it's going to kill anything, and vice versa if it drops. Now, if you get salinity fluctuations, what comes along with salinity fluctuations is alkalinity fluctuations. Of course, if there's less salt, there's going to be less alkalinity in there. And yeah, so you might be, I know that you said it's the salinity that might have done it, but it's probably the fluctuations in alkalinity that have probably killed over some of that stuff. So did you end up testing your alkalinity during that fluctuation? 1.023. Okay, well, that's not that bad. Yeah, I've had worse than that, man. when I mentioned before that I've had issues with the Milwaukee and my testing stuff, oh man, it was high. It was really high. It was like 0.38 or something crazy like that. It was really high, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I dialed it back over a few days, and it was fine to 1.026. But with that, that's where you're going to get the alkalinity. So there's probably going to be a really high alkalinity concentration in that higher salinity concentration, right? So because obviously more salt, more alkalinity, right? So that's probably where you're having the issues with. Now, is it just testing was off, or did you overdose something? Like were you doing a water change and just had it too high? That's what I mean by overdosing. Did you just make a water change and didn't calculate it correctly? But yeah, that's not horrible. I thought it was much more than that. But depending on how sensitive the tank is, you might have been the issue. So. How's it going, Travis? It's going pretty good. Barry, appreciate you being here. We're kind of starting off with these Wednesdays again, just coming back and hanging out. I know that I was MIA for a while, or MIA. Yeah, it's just been a lot going on. And as I mentioned before, I end up, I get caught up with work, and then that takes over, and then I teach jiu-jitsu 3 days a week now. So I get distracted, and then things just don't line up video-wise. So like I mentioned before, I'm just trying to get out a couple videos a week, do this live stream, keep that going. Yeah, because I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and not being able to find the time for it's a little frustrating. So yeah, but anyways, Aussie Dan, hopefully your tank comes back. Now, I guess what you can do, if you want to get back to the question here, since it bleached out. Now, you said there's faint coloration in there, and it's been a few weeks. Now, one thing you'll realize, it only takes a matter of days or even hours to bleach a coral, right? Even with shipping and all that kind of stuff. And it could take months to get that coloration back. And the best thing you can do for that is to not make any more changes to the tank. Just keep everything as stable as possible. Don't crank up the light, vice versa. Don't turn it down. Don't make any adjustments. Don't dose anything special or make any major changes. 1 second. And do that, and then it will come back in time. If they're not dead now, and it's been a few weeks, and they're not dead, as in they're not starting to grow algae on them, give them some time. They'll come back. Paleness is okay. Just don't expect them to kind of reverse in the same amount of time it took for them to kind of get pissed off. So just keep that in mind. Patience. We all know how it is. Life takes over sometimes. It sure does, man. It sure does. And I mean, I'm not complaining. I don't like to complain about blessings. I mean, if I get busy at work here, I definitely don't mind. It could be a lot worse, right? But there is a priority system, right? So I know that, I got to pay the bills, and I got to do things, that need to be done. But I still have to enjoy life to a certain extent too. I mean, I enjoy making content, hence the reason why it started. I think what 2026 will be 10 years, something like that. It's been a while. I think I started at late 2016, and I enjoyed that stuff. And obviously, the content has changed over the years just because things get in the way, right? And that's just kind of normal. So, as with anything, it just trying to keep in here, keep showing up, and hopefully keep going, right? So, no, I'm not under the excuse me. I understand that nothing lasts forever, so the YouTube thing is great, and I'm just going to do it while I enjoy it and while things are, while I'm able to. But who knows? Things can change tomorrow. So, every day, everyone has their last video, right? And I know that's kind of a morbid thing to think about, but someday there will be a last video. Who knows? But who knows when that will be? But until then, just going to keep knocking it out. So, but yeah, man, these freaking allergies are crazy. It's just time of year, man. We had sun the other day. It was super nice. All the snow melted. I was out there in shorts. Well, I mean, I wear shorts all year long. I'm one of those dudes. But I was out there having a great time, hanging out, and then all of a sudden now it's just snowing like fucking crazy. But let's see here. Better busy than bored, because the bored broke tends to follow close behind. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I one thing I really like is I know when I started the 3D printing stuff, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, man, it's almost been that long. Damn. I did it because I just wanted something different, right? But man, did it take over. And there's no boring to any of that. And I really do enjoy it, which is thankfully is a really good thing, but it just seems like there's always something that needs to be done with that. So I'm never going to be bored. I mean, unless something magical comes out and everybody can do it, but I'm definitely not going to be bored with that anytime soon. Cause I feel like, I don't know. It's how do I explain? It's like a niche, right? So most of my work, most of my custom work I do, somebody usually just reaches out and says, "Hey, I got this problem and I don't really know how to fix it. What do you think?" And then we kind of brainstorm together and go through methods of fixing it and how 3D printing might be able to do it. And then the idea is born, and we kind of go from there, right? So that takes time, but it's definitely a very exciting process. So now coral, on the other hand, that's not so much fun. I mean, I mean, coral's cool, but it's coral, right? It's basically the tank is, I know that as much as I give Big Blue shit, right? He's still kind of a fun fish, right? I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him. I've had him forever. Plus, I got him from Roscoe's Reef before he ended up leaving the hobby, and he was super old. I think he was like 5 or 6 years old when I got him, and he's at least another 4 or 5 years on top of that. So even though he kind of gives me a pain in the ass problems in the tank, I still love him. But so outside of that, the coral's kind of boring. I don't know. I can't really figure out a way to make coral exciting, but 3D printing, I definitely enjoy that. Let's see here. What do you run your nutrients at? So in the 300, which is also attached to the frac tank, 10 ppm of nitrates is kind of my go-to point. I used to run it a little bit lower, between 5 and 7. But I found that the coloration just wasn't as deep as I guess that's the term for it. It just didn't seem as, I guess, bold, if that's what you want to call it, as it is now around 10 ppm. Now I have shot up to about 15 to 20, but that's when you start tiptoeing. Like you might get some algae if, say, your refugium doesn't want to work right for a few days, or the light goes out, or something happens. You're kind of tiptoeing on that higher end range. So 10 ppm is kind of my comfortable spot for nitrates. Now, when it comes to phosphates, 0.1 is kind of where I've stayed for a while. Let me see. Jeremy says, I had my highest acro growth at 0.5 compared to 0.1 and 0.2. So 0.15 is like really the max I'll go, 0.15. But 0.1 is pretty good for phosphates. Again, we're teeter-tottering around. If it goes up too high, then if something happens with the system, say your skimmer doesn't work great one day or a few days in a row, or again, your refugium, you accidentally kill all the macroalgae like I did, cleaning it, that's a problem. And you'll be surprised, like the refugium, people take that stuff for granted, man. The refugium is a powerhouse, and when it's not working, man, you really notice it. So it's one of those things. I'm getting back on track here. I finally got it tumbling right, and it's working good. It's starting to grow, but as with everything, it takes a little while to kind of kick back in. But yeah, killing off for macroalgae, that's kind of sucks too. So that's why I like to keep my nutrients at those ranges. Again, 10 for nitrates and around 0.1 for phosphates, because it's not too high, it's not too low, so you're not going to run into dino issues because it's too low, and it's not too high as if you're a refugium. If you actually kill all your macroalgae, the water change will at least keep everything in check. So hopefully that helps you out. Color not as vivid below like 8 nitrates. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it just seems different. You kind of get that what is it, like pasty, chalky kind of color. It's almost like the Zeovit system. If you didn't dose all the extra stuff to make it look good, right? It just seems kind of blah, right? So again, 10 ppm is a pretty sweet spot for me. Any tips keeping acropora, par levels, etc.? So if you're just starting out with acropora, it's good to pick some hardier ones, Dan, like the green slimer, ATL blue clover. Any kind of stag would be a good starter acropora, just because they're really resilient. I mean, and with the resilience, I mean that they can deal with water fluctuations quite well, as well as par fluctuations. So I have some green slimer that grows at 250 par, and then I have some growing at 950, and they both are doing pretty good. So coloration, of course, is a little at the 950 range because it's almost up at the top of the tank, right? So it's not as vibrant as the one a little bit lower, of course, higher par, less zooxanthellae, right? So, the paler the zooxanthellae, excuse me. But so first things first is getting an acropora that's going to be easier to start with. So again, any kind of staghorn is going to be fine. Millies, depending on which one you get, millies are going to be good. And yeah, so start off with easy acropora. Did I read that wrong? Oh, my bad, man. Sorry. I'm over here looking at the wrong thing. That's what I get for reading too fast, right? I don't even know. Anchoropora. Let me look that up. I might be just looking at something wrong. Let me look. Well, that's not a good. I'm looking up something here, guys. 1 second. That's so funny. I wish you guys could see my screen. So I typed this in because I wanted to make sure I was on the right page, and it auto corrected it to anaconda. What I'm fucking crazy. Oh, I see what you got here. Oh, I used to have that before. We called that the I'm looking up the acro right now just to make sure. I used to sell it, but it was called something else. It's like green something. They didn't call it that. I got it. I mean, I had that years and years ago, and before I oh man, that brings back memories. Before I actually cut down the 300, overhauled it the first time, I used to have a whole bunch of this stuff, but that's not what it was called. Now it's gonna bother me. Shit. Now it's gonna bother me. I'm gonna look through Shopify and see what that was called before. So care tips for that. Well, basically, it's going to be the same thing with any other acro. I grew it at about 450 par. Moderate flow was in the middle of the tank in between two rock structures, so it wasn't getting blasted by any one of the MP40s. Do you have the green version? Because they have a red version here, too. That's kind of cool. I've never seen the red one. That's actually pretty sweet. Kind of expensive, too. Damn. Kind of reminds me of a weird-looking Digi. But, yeah, so I didn't blast it with flow. And it was like, again, about 400-ish par in between the rock structures. And I do remember it getting killed, at least the bottom half of it was getting killed by a encrusting Monty. So if you want to keep it away from a Montiporas, probably, yeah, man, I haven't seen that forever. Man, I really wish. I cannot remember what the heck I had called it on the website, but it definitely wasn't that. Oh, that's going to bother me. Thanks, Dan. That's going to bother me. I'm going to have to look that up later. Thank you, by the way, for that. Let's see here. Let me scroll back up here. Beautiful tank. My 75 isn't as beautiful, but everything is alive in my second year, so feeling good about that. Hey, man, that's the start. A lot of people. So if you've been in the hobby for a while, I feel like we take for granted the basics of just having the reef tank alive. So if you remember when you started I remember when I first started, I had a 25 gallon. I went to Petco and I bought all this stuff. No, I went to that fish place in Lancaster, sorry. And I bought all this stuff, had a hang in the back filter and T5 lighting, got some dry rock, and I got a clownfish, and I didn't know crap about cycling and all that kind of stuff, or at least I did for the freshwater, but I didn't really think too much of it for the saltwater. But anyways, I remember that feeling of like, oh man, I'm finally keeping this fish alive. I don't have algae growing everywhere. I have my first bird's nest and it's growing and it feels great. So it just, sometimes you have to step back and realize that, even though you end up having, down the road, you start with a 75, right? And down the road, you have a 300 or a 500 or 1,000-gallon reef tank, whatever the size. Going back and just kind of saying, oh, wow, man, I am keeping a piece of the saltwater world alive in my kitchen or your living room or wherever it might be. It's kind of surreal to a certain extent. And I just saw the video pop up with that Goniapora, how small it was back in the day. Man, this is an old video of the reef tank. This is before I took it down the second time completely. Man, there's some corals in there that I miss. Anyways, unfortunately, that's what happens when, if you guys remember Big Bertha, she really did a lot of damage to the reef tank as it was growing. Let me go and turn this off. It's not working right now. But yeah, so I guess I know I've talked about it before, but some of the things that I regret with in the hobby was some of those fish. Like I really like the monos, if you guys remember that. I'm seeing them in one of my videos I was going through the other day. They start off really cool, really small, and they got big, and then they got scared and killed themselves. So you guys remember that. And then Big Bertha, this little mini 2-inch flamingo, and then she grew into be a monster over a foot. It's just the lessons that I've learned over the years. That's why I'm pretty excited to start a new tank and kind of go from scratch and just take everything that I've learned, filtration wise, aquascaping wise, coral placement wise. I mean, the 300 makes the 125 look like the Stone Age, right? Comparatively, how good it is. But I'll be interested to see what the next build is going to be like. Let's see here. I've got the green, golden, and tint. Okay, yeah, that's the one I just saw when I pulled it up. And then they have the red one. Yeah, let me pull it up here. Yeah, they have a red one. JFTNT. It's like $70. They didn't say how big it was, though. But it looks cool. But the green one is the one I had, the one that you were talking about. Yeah, Big Bertha the Dozer. Yeah, she was... I have to check in and see. Last time I checked, she was at the high school or the middle school. It's one of the two. Up north, past Williamsport. And she's doing well. So I'll have to double check and see. But yeah, she just got too big. So obviously the lessons learned with that. Fish selection. If you guys remember, I had the snowflake eel, Reggie. He did really, really well. And then I replaced him with that moray eel that wiped out like $3,000 worth of fish, which I see a lot of them in this video right now that were eaten by him. I can't believe he ate my flame fin tang. He ate one of my purple tangs. He ate one of my blue hippo tangs. Man, he ate my filefish. Hell, he killed the filefish. He didn't eat it. He couldn't swallow it because of spike. He ate all my damsels. He ate my wrasse. He ate 4 of my clownfish. Man, that was a disaster. I was just like wondering, because I didn't look at the tank a lot. I was like, man, why does the tank seem kind of empty? And then he's just, he never came out to eat. That's because he was eating everybody at night. So big lessons learned with that. I will never have an eel in a display tank, acro SPS display tank ever again. No, it's just not worth it, man, because they moving the rocks around, killing all your damn fish. But no, that was the snowflake eel was fine. That was the moray eel, just to clarify. That was killing everything. So again, lessons learned, right? But yeah. So if you guys, let's see here. I have a electric lemonade pour, easy to care for, growing like mad. Yeah, when I had one before, again, it grew pretty good. It was a popular seller, but I didn't call it that. That's what bothers me. I wish I had the name. Man, that's driving me nuts. Barry, I gotta find it. It's gotta be on Shopify here somewhere. Man, that's gonna bother me. But yeah, so that's one thing is, speaking of corals that are missing and all that stuff from Big Bertha, being able to start over and finally get my hands on the hundreds of acros that I've always wanted and just expand my grow out. I tell you one thing I really miss doing when I had the tub before was having those 3-inch ceramic disc growing colonies on each one of those and having a couple hundred of those just growing colonies. It was so nice. I really missed that. And it'd be nice to be able to bring in all the acropores that I had before. I had a bunch of Walt Disney that didn't make it through the crash, or not the crash, through Big Bertha's destruction. There's just a lot of things that I would love to bring back, and yeah, it'd just be nice. I'm thinking of getting a snowflake eel for my 5 foot lagoon tank. Would you recommend that? Snowflake's fine, yeah, but I wouldn't go anything no moray like wolf eels or anything like that. So a small snowflake eel would be fine for that. Like I said, Reggie was great. I had him in the 125. I actually have a ton of videos. I used to do the top down feeding him and all sorts of stuff. He was really good. No aggression. He never killed anything. He did kind of swim around and kind of look at the fish like he wanted to do something, but he never did. Now, that was the only snowflake eel I've ever owned, so I can't say if the personality is eel, like the same throughout the eels. I do know that wolf eel that I got afterward was a monster, an absolute monster. So snowflake eel is fine. Would a snowflake eel eat small fish, though? I would imagine if they were really hungry, if you weren't feeding them, right? If you didn't feed him at all, like, because I target fed mine with shrimp and octopus and little things like that. I imagine if you didn't feed him for a couple weeks, he probably would go looking for some smaller fish to eat. I mean, I think anybody would, right? Or any kind of eel, regardless of their temperament, if they're not getting fed. But they're not going to go out of their way to hunt your fish at night, especially when the eel that I had that wiped out most of my tank, he ate fish that were a lot bigger than him. So he just kind of went around and killed fish that were bigger for no reason. I mean, I'm sure he was hungry, but it just I don't see a snowflake eel doing that. At least not from my I wouldn't say limited experience. I had them for a few years, but again, I've only had one. So I don't know if they're all necessarily that nice, right? Because it's just like a cat, right? You can get a cat that's super sweet, and then you can get another one that's a complete asshole and wants to, kill everything. So it's just, yeah, I have cats too. So, and I have a nice one, and then I have one that ignores me unless I'm feeding them, and then I have one that just I don't know what she does. She doesn't do anything. She just eats and fucking sleeps, man. She don't do anything. So, yeah. So maybe it's the same thing for the eel. Who knows? But yeah, so I think that's it. Would have been here for like 35 minutes. I'll do a couple more minutes unless you guys have anything else you want to ask. I was going to go through a couple of questions on my YouTube page here, but I got to get to it. Let's see if I can find it. And I'm starting to get a little raspy, as you can tell. Hey Travis, any recommendations for Jabo, gyres, or wave makers for that size of a tank that you have? Thanks in advance. So as I mentioned before, okay, so if we're talking about the 300 or the low boys, this was on the question that was on the low boys. So I do use MP10s on the low boys, if anybody's wondering. I did use the Nero 5s on the low boys. Those are fine as well. I wouldn't go any bigger than that, and I definitely wouldn't put like an MP40 or anything like that in there for sure. But on the 300, I am using 4 MP40s, and I just picked up 2 SLW30s from Jabo. What is the best way to improve coral color? Best ways, excuse me. So coral color, it's going to come down to your nutrients and your light, right? So it's a fine balance between the two. So if you have really low nutrients and really high light, you're going to have really pale white corals, potentially dead corals. If you have really low light and really high nutrients, you're going to have really dark brown corals, right? Because the more nutrients you have, the more zooxanthellae that the coral is going to have. The less light, the more zooxanthellae to kind of feed the coral, right? And if you have a lot of excess nutrients, it's just going to make everything really dark and just not that great. Like you see a lot of brownish turd-looking corals, and then you throw them underneath a little bit higher light with a little less nutrients, they kind of get back to the normal coloration. So you're going to want to find a balance. So depending on the tank you have, so let's just hypothetically say it's just SPS, right? General SPS, Monteporas, Digitatas, just the generic stuff, right? Anywhere between 250 and 450 is a sweet spot par-wise for me when it comes to coloration. And then, that nutrients, 10 ppm of nitrates and 0.1 of phosphates. Those are the sweet points for me when it comes to coloration. And then you can always micromanage and kind of fine tune your coloration with amino acids, ICP test to make sure you have everything, Coral Plus, Aquavita Fuel. You can add what is it? What is that stuff? Acropower and all sorts of stuff that can boost, give the corals a little bit more nutrients, make them happier, and turn better coloration down the road. But at the end of the day, coloration, the stability of the reef tank, and that's including alkalinity and salinity and all that stuff. So stability and consistency with your nutrients are really kind of all play a role into it. So I know it's a lot. There's not going to be just one thing that's going to make everything better and more colorful. It's going to be a mixture of things. So you just kind of got to fine tune it and balance it with a little bit of trial and error, because every system's going to be different, right? With flow, par, intensities, all that kind of stuff. So you just got to fine tune it and go slow. And that way you can kind of see what you do add. Say you start adding a little bit more food, and you can see how the tank changes over the next few weeks, because you're at different nutrient levels. So you can, see that stuff if you go slow. Excuse me. What's your thoughts on biopellet reactors? So I had biopellet reactor on the 125 back in the day because I had a lot of fish and the filtration system wasn't that great. Excuse me. So biopellet reactors are good if you have a lot of excess nitrates that you can't get down with water changes, and you still have to feed the tank quite heavily to keep everybody happy. Maybe you got too much aggression. Maybe you can't get a big enough skimmer. Maybe you don't have enough room for a refugium. There's different things. So at the end of the day, if your nitrates can't be controlled in a reasonable level with water changes, refugium, or your skimmer, and you have to feed the same amount because of the amount of fish you have or the aggression, then a biopellet reactor is great. Now, the downside of a biopellet reactor is you have to have constant flow for it. So if your power goes out and that flow stops for a few hours or whatever it might be, you kind of got to start over. So you got to start slow with it, build it up, monitor your nitrates as you add biopellets to it. You also need to run the output of the biopellet reactor to the input of a skimmer to help skim off some of that excess bacteria, because that stuff will get onto your pumps and just requires a little bit more maintenance to make sure that they don't seize up and everything runs smoothly. So it's great if you need it and you don't have other methods of keeping your nitrates in check. But if you do have the ability to use other methods, I would go with that, because nitrate reactor is biopellet reactor, is just one more thing you got to take care of, and it has its downfalls, right? So hopefully that answers your question. I am stuffy. I do apologize. I feel like I can't breathe through my nose. Freaking mouth breathing over here. Just a question on my magnesium intake. I dose 280 milliliters, 170 calc, 8 liter calc a day, but only 1.5 milliliter mag a day. My corals are doing great, but why so less magnesium compared to other reefers? Okay, so one thing that I've realized, depending on your tank and the corals you have, really dictates the magnesium upload or uptake. So on the 125, before I got to the 300 and all that stuff, my magnesium was similar. I barely dosed any of it because I did 2-part. So I did 2-part dosing through the auto doser, and I barely used any magnesium, and everything was fine. But here on the 300, I have mag chips in my calcium reactor, and I have to dose 2 gallons of magnesium every 2 months to the reef tank to keep it just at 1400. And it depletes very quickly. Now, the only difference is that, of course, I have more coral growing in this tank, and that's pretty much it. Outside of that, depending on your salt, I am using the Instant Ocean Purple, but the magnesium levels was fine with that. It's nothing too crazy, and I don't notice any major fluctuations between water changes. With water changes on the Apex Trident. So on the Trident. So I don't think it's the salt. It's just the amount of corals that I got going in there and all that kind of stuff. So like I said, the uptake is going to be different between tanks. The only thing that you need to make sure is that you're staying within the appropriate range, regardless of kind of what everything else is going on, because the magnesium is what's going to keep the calcium and alkalinity separated in the water column, so they don't come together and precipitate out on your pumps and just kind of cause odd, weird fluctuations with your alkalinity. So making sure you're staying between that 1250 and 1450 range. Usually 1350 is kind of the sweet point for me, up to about 1400. And if that requires you to dose more, that's fine, or dose less, or even in my case, dosing 2 gallons every couple months. And yeah, so I would just focus more on keeping it stable and in the appropriate range, opposed to really how much you're using, because again, every tank's going to be different, right? So hopefully that helps you out. Thank you. Yeah, I have high nutrients right now. I think I need more light too. So if you think you need more light, confirm it. Get a par, rent a par meter, and just kind of see where you're at. The eyes will deceive you. Trust me, if you're just trying to look at your tank and determine what the par is, it's just not going to work out. Because like I said, some corals can grow at 250 just as well as they grow at 900. So if you're going to depend on coral growth, it's not really reliable either. So get a par meter, rent one. I don't know if BRS is still renting them. I'll have to check, but or get the Senai Reef. I'm a big fan of the Senai Reef to give you a ballpark range, and just test your par, see where you're at. If you're not in that 250, 350, 450 kind of range, then yeah, it's probably too low. And then with the high nutrients and the low light, you're definitely going to have dark corals for sure. Yep, 100%. Have you had any experience with Red Sea complete reef care? So I've used the, let me look it up here. Back on the 125, I used it every, I don't know if that's the one, Red Sea. Is it the A, B, C, D? Yeah, that's what I used before. So I used, let me pull it here. I use Red Sea Trace Colors. That's the only Red Sea dosing that I've used in any of my tanks. I had to look it up just to verify, make sure I was talking about the right stuff. So I have not used the complete reef care. Let me look it up real quick though. Let me see what we got. Oh, it looks fancy. It has some fancy bottles there. It looks expensive as fuck too. Let me look it up. All right, so we got magnesium, calcium, magnesium. We got alkalinity, pH stabilizer, iodine, potassium, iron, bioelements. Okay, is that everything? This is a 4-part. Okay, man, is it expensive. I have to look at the dosing. Why is it $180? What the fuck? Okay, so does it come with a pump too? Okay, dosing system. I'm like, man, why are they charging so much? Okay, so it has the dosing system. I'm like sitting here trying to figure out why it's so expensive. Okay, so I have not used it. I will say that it looks pretty cool. I like the colors. I'm getting distracted here. But does it say how long it's going to last? It does keep track of it for you too. That looks pretty sweet. Does it work? I don't know. I mean, it's Red Sea. They've been pretty successful with their products. I'll have to look into this. It looks pretty cool. Now, it's not something that I would personally use just because I'm a calcium reactor. I really like calcium reactor, calc, and then I use Reef Plus. I dose my own iodine, and I do ICP tests and kind of dose whatever's missing outside of that if I need to. So cool. Major trace elements, alkalinity component. It looks pretty sweet. I know I get caught up on that, but I don't know. I like the colors. Anyways, yeah, never used it. I guess as a starter, $180. So it does come with a complete dosing system. What's the refills? What's that cost? For complete dosing care system. No, I see refills here for $70, or is this a small setup? Okay, so I do see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so you can do the refills. Okay. All right. Well, I mean, that's not horrible. The question is, how long does it last? I mean, I could look into it more right now. It'd probably take up too much time. It would just depend on how long is it going to last for the price, right? Isn't it, if it's worth it in the long run? Now, I know the calcium reactor isn't the most, I guess, the easiest thing in the world, but it's once you got it, right? And I'm a big fan of just testing with ICP every few months just to see kind of if there's anything that's out of range or not doing that great, and then just replay, dosing some extra iodine or magnesium or whatever else might be kind of missing in the ICP test. But yeah, I guess I'd be interested if anybody, I guess I have to look up the reviews and see it, but it looks cool. I know I've said it like 5 times already, but it looks cool. I like the colors. That's probably not going to help you, but yeah. Anyways, do you recommend running a carbon reactor all the time or as needed? So I run carbon 24/7 and I change it out every month. I do about 2 cups in the 300 in that one reactor, and it runs until it either clogs or I replace it. So usually it clogs before I get to replace it. So ideally, what I should do, if I was smarter in time management wise, is I would run half as much carbon and I would change it out every 2 weeks. That's what I would do. I think carbon is just a good, safe thing to have in your reef tank. Clarity's good and it's nice, but it's also like, if you got dirty hands or a chemical gets in the tank, it helps pull that stuff out. And yeah, just keeps the water a little bit cleaner, which is nice. So yeah, running it all the time. AB plus. Okay, I missed something there. What do I miss? I've been using it for 6 months. ICP always spot on. Cool. Awesome. I mean, if the ICP is spot on, and what's the price point? What are you paying, Dan, every 6 months to run that on your system? I don't remember what size. I think you said you had a 75. Was it you? It might have been you. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't you. But how long is it lasting? Now, of course, obviously you're gonna have to change how much you're dosing based on, I guess, alkalinity, right? So if your alkalinity is going down, just like with 2-part, right? I'm assuming you'd have to increase the amount you dose accordingly to keep everything stable. But I'd be interested to see how long it lasts, especially at that price point. Now, would I transition? A lot of people wonder, like, I get recommendations to try new products all the time. So like, hey, try this all for reef, or try this dosing method, or this and that to the 300. Now, unfortunately, I haven't calculated the alkalinity consumption in the reef tank with just a calcium reactor. So if I was to transition to another method, I would be putting the reef tank at a risk, right? So obviously I can say I had to go to 2-part, right? And you got, 2-part came out and I want to try, or even this program here that you have, I could add that to the system and slowly dial down the calcium reactor over time and eventually, be fully on this new system. But I found that even if I go slow, the risk for the reef tank, given that it's grown out now and just kind of, it is happy the way it is, it does not like any changes. Even when I make changes on my calc reactor, it does not like it. Like, I get polyp extension is kind of pissed off for a few days. So what basically I'm getting to is, if I ever wanted to try any of this new stuff, I'd have to wait or build an entire new system, because the reef tank right now is happy with its calcium reactor, and it does not like me changing out anything. When I switched the media out on that reactor, I thought I was going to lose the reef tank. It was not happy. It just wasn't. It just, I don't know. It's got an attitude, apparently. It's just like Big Blue in there. But yeah, so I would love to try some of this new stuff, but unfortunately I ain't got the room for new tanks. And speaking of new tanks, this just popped in my head. I had, this just came up. I just looked at the email. Just came up. So somebody sent me an email and asked me if I could make a 3D printed all-in-one setup for a 20-gallon long. That meaning making it a peninsula tank. So essentially cutting off like a section of it in the back with all the filtration, and then leaving the rest for like the peninsula style tank. I don't know. I mean, I can, but I don't know if it's going to be worth the work for it, and if other people would be interested in it. I just thought, would a 20-gallon peninsula tank even look that great? Because the rim is so, I guess if you took the rim off, which is probably not the safest thing to do. It is 20 gallons, so who really cares? But, I mean, still 20 gallons of water on your floor. But if you could take the rim off a 20-gallon and then make it a peninsula, it might look pretty cool. I don't know. But I got to reply to that guy. I will probably do it anyways. And, yeah, because I made one for the other tank. So anyways, back on topic. I got the largest size, which is about 600 liters system for 3 months. I pay 300 Australian dollars. I run a coral business, so it's worth doing. Okay. What is 600 liters in gallons? I guess I looked that up. Man, I work with millimeters all the time, but I don't work with the liter system. So 600 liters to gallons. Damn, son. 158 gallon. Okay. So you have a 158 gallon system. Okay. You paid $300. Was that for the entire, like, the pump and everything? Okay. Man, what's the shortcut to convert liters to gallons? I don't know. I'm good with millimeters. But so when people ask, like when people send me specs for projects, they send it in inches. I'm like, dude, can you send it in millimeters? Because I can't convert, right? I just do millimeters now. But anyways, I'm rambling. So we'll probably have to call it here soon. Let me see what we got. Let me pull up my YouTube real quick. See if I missed anything. Cool. All right. So yeah. So these live streams will become more productive as we go. I just figure we'll kind of ease into it. If you have questions that you don't want to put in chat and you want to be anonymous or whatever, feel free to email me, fisheffects@gmail.com. I do have a bunch that I have to get the Q&A videos out with. So those are going to be part of the next few weeks, try to get some of those out. Ask Alexa to convert. I don't have an Alexa, believe it or not. I do not. I got this Google thing on my Android, but I don't never use that either. So I'll just type it into Google. I do it all the time. But yeah, so approximate liter to gallons is divided by 4. Okay, cool. All right. All right, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate you being here. Next week, see you on Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. You can hit me up on website chat. All the stuff's going on over there. That's probably the quickest way to get a hold of me. Email is the next best. That way I don't, we can have the dialogue come back and forth. It stays there in email form. So, yeah, appreciate you being here, and I will see you guys in a couple of videos this week, and I'll see you next Wednesday. All right, so peace.